Hey everyone, got a new camera. Those of you who remember last time I taught, it was cameraless. Don't know why. Turn this off here. It's probably a little better. Maybe? Maybe not. Okay. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. Thank you. If for some reason you cannot hear me or see me, then it's your computer. All right. Thanks. Excellent. Let's see. I see all familiar names. Ooh, Selena. I think this might be your first time with us today. Let me know if that is correct. Let's see. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jill. Okay, so welcome you all. My name is Vanessa. In case any of you have forgotten, I feel like it's been weeks since I've been with you. It's been a couple. I've been on vacation, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so come back and campus is crazy and my building is loud again and the hallways are bustling, so that's pretty cool. Okay, Selena, welcome. I believe this is your first week here with Eat Well. I'll do a really sort of brief introduction to how things work online, okay? So this is obviously using the Zoom meeting platform, which means that you can hear me and see me, but I can't hear you or see you because I've got everyone muted. If for any reason anyone wants that to change, of course we can change that. But generally we leave that that way so people can sort of work while they listen, eat their lunch without being on display, that sort of thing. So that's why we handle the class this way. The class does meet live online Wednesdays from 12 to 1, and we record it. So if you have to leave in the middle, or if you have to get here late, or if you just want to go back to a point and hear it again, then you can access that on the Eat Well website, which you should have received the link to in the welcome email. Okay. Selena, were you able to? Oh, we lost her. Okay, well, hopefully she comes back. So yeah, so those of you who are my regulars here, who have been here before, you may have noticed that things are starting to look a little bit different maybe on the maybe re-registration side of things, if anyone has re-registered recently. If you haven't re-registered this week, and if you're due to it in another 5 weeks, then you will learn what I'm talking about. But essentially, we've changed sort of the administrative process for our Eat Well program. And what that means for you guys is that if you upload a food journal or a weight, it's going to look different. All right, we're not going to be using Wufoo anymore. So if you have not received an email, if this is not your re-registration week, then don't worry, because right now we're carrying both platforms. But eventually this is all going to transition to a new internally built sort of portal site that's just ours. And that's where you'll be dropping your weights and your food diaries. Yeah, so it's very cool. We'll be able to communicate with you via this internal portal as well. You'll be able to opt in if you want text updates. So just, you know, keep an ear to the ground. If you haven't received an email yet, it means it's not your time yet. But soon you will, and it will be, and Wufoo will be out. So it's a lot of doings around here. Any questions about that business? And while you're thinking, I just realized I have the fun food in the refrigerator, so I'm going to grab it. Be right back. Okay, back again. So we did have a fun food this week. This is something that is available at Kroger and Meijer and possibly other places. Let's see if you can see it. So this is a yogurt put out by Yoplait. All right. And I know yogurt can be super confusing. You go to the store and there are approximately 87 different types of yogurt. Karen chose this one, and I'll tell you why. So this says on the package, it's called Yo, and it is yogurt cultured ultra filtered milk. They have a few different flavors. We tried lime, mango, and vanilla. And this ultra filtered milk, it's still a little bit of a mystery to me. I'm going to be honest with you. If anyone has any insight on what exactly ultra filtered milk means, I could Google it, but I haven't yet. But let me know. But what it means is that a lot of the lactose has been filtered out. So I guess the lactose is a bigger molecule than the protein. Because all the protein's left in. So what you're getting here is a very low lactose, which to be honest, most yogurt is, but be that as it may. So you get a very low lactose, high protein yogurt product, okay? For 130 calories, you get 15 grams of protein, only 9 grams of sugar, okay? Not a lot of fat, 2.5 grams total fat. And there's not any funny stuff in there. There is a thickener, there's pectin. Those of you who have heard me talk about pectin before, I still have the same feelings about pectin. It's cheating, but whatever. Not everyone has those feelings about their yogurt. So this might be something for you to try, okay? Like I said, we tried 3 different flavors. They're pretty good. Karen and I have different thoughts on yogurt. She does not like sour yogurt, okay? That whole like kind of tang, she doesn't like it. And I think a lot of people share that sort of dislike for it. I like sour yogurt. This is not sour at all. So if that appeals to you, then maybe you should look for this guy, okay? Maybe check it out. Let us know. So it's called Yo, all right? You can find it online too, like on the marketing website, and read a little bit more about it. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. New yogurt. Any questions about my little commercial there? All right, and Sherry, thank you for your email. Okay. All right, no questions. If you do, then you're typing more slowly, so I'm just going to continue to make more announcements. Next week is Labor Day. We do have class, and I know that's confusing because oftentimes when it's a holiday week, we don't have class, but we do have class next week. So if you can't catch it for some reason, that's fine. Remember, we will be recording it, but we will be meeting next week. And remember too, this bears repeating, if you're registered for a specific class time as part of your registration, but a week comes up where like you can't make the online class, but you'd like to come visit us in person, that's totally fine. Okay, if you're on campus maybe, and you're usually not, you happen to be around mid-campus Tuesdays at noon, you want to attend class at Mining and Minerals, absolutely fine. Just shoot us an email so we can expect you. But even if you forget to do that, we'll still let you in. So, but yeah, just be aware that there is class next week. Gosh, I think those are all the announcements I have. Does anyone have anything that they want to share with the class? Any new foods that you've tried or new activities? Questions? While you're thinking, I'm going to drop the lesson for today in the chat box. Okay, that was sent successfully. So if you would like to click on that and print it out or whatever you would like to do, you should be able to do that now. If you have any problems with clicking on that PDF, let me know and I'll put it in there again. And I'm also going to share my screen here. And oh, maybe I should open it up first. There we go. Sorry, it's taking way too long. Doesn't look like anyone has any questions for me. That's okay though. All right, y'all should see the handout now. If anyone does not see the handout, let me know. Let's see. Oh, Lori, you made the pureed ice cubes, the basil. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so that must have been some very strongly pigmented basil that you had. So Lori says, in case you can't see the chat box, I do read the comments. Lori says she made the pureed basil ice cubes and they came out great and have used one in sauce. But she doesn't know if the ice cube trays will ever be the same tinted green. You can break them out for St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, so that pigment in the basil, that's surprising that it that your ice cube tray absorbed it. It might have just been a more porous material than we're used to, but it's not going to harm your future ice cubes in any way. If this is a new tip to anyone who is here today, if you are faced with an abundance of fresh herbs and not sure what to do with them, you can puree them with a little bit of water, freeze that mixture, pop them out into a Ziploc bag, and then you'll have lovely little pre-portioned, pre-measured little bursts of flavor. I think each ice cube for a standard ice cube tray is about 2 tablespoons, and you'll have basil or whatever herb puree. And if you go to the grocery store and you see, like in the produce section, they have those tubes of essentially herb puree. They're not cheap, right? At all. They probably hold like, I don't know, 3 or 4 ice cubes worth. So you're making at least 3 to 4 times that amount for pennies. And you can, just sort of have that satisfaction of knowing that you did it yourself. So cool. Lori, thank you for sharing that. Once you have these little frozen herb cubes, then you can use them in soups or sauces or even in a marinade if you defrost it first. The color may not stay as vivid as time goes on, but they'll still be good for a few months, which is great in the middle of winter when you just want a little bit of a fresh flavor like that. So thank you for sharing that. Awesome. All right, so we are talking about exercise today, and those of you who have been in the program for a while may have noticed that the 10th week of every program schedule is about physical activity and exercise, and we usually have one of the GAs teach this class because they are studying body mechanics or biomechanics or health promotion or exercise physiology. So we consider them to be the experts in that particular field. But, it's like the first full week of class. So we're not going to put that on them this time. So you get to hear us talk about the 12 best reasons that you should exercise. That's what we'll be talking about today. All right. And the cool thing about this lesson is that these are reasons for exercise that have absolutely nothing to do with weight loss. These are all sort of more holistic reasons for increasing physical activity, planned physical activity, otherwise known as intentional physical activity in your life, right? So while there's a place certainly for parking a little bit further away or taking the stairs instead of the elevator, we in this particular lesson are talking more about repetitive actions, whether they be for balance and stability, whether it be aerobic activity, or whether it be strength training. Okay, we're thinking of more sort of traditional exercise activities when we're talking about this lesson today. Okay, not to say that you shouldn't do those other things, because you should. right? The more overall activity we do, the better. But this is going to be more intentional physical activity. All right. So do I have anyone in class today who is kind of on the fence about exercise? Like they know they should do it, but ... Is anyone sort of wanting to change that? Let's see if I get any takers here. I know some of you have recently incorporated a lot of change into their physical activity scenarios, which is great, right? Sometimes you just have to be ready, you know, and that level of readiness is different for everyone. That trigger is different for everyone. What people like to do differs. You know, one person may love group exercise. One person may think of that would just be the worst torture ever for them, right? Some people cannot imagine running miles and miles and miles by themselves. For some people, that's like the best thing ever, right? So it really sort of depends. So you really do have to sort of look within yourself and figure out what works for you, right? What works for your friend may not work for you. It's nice if it does, because then you have kind of an accountability buddy, but know that that's not always the case. So Becky, you're looking to maybe amp up your exercise routine. That's awesome. Juanita, you started walking again. That's great. You know, and I know that Juanita, you've talked about this in class, so I feel like I can bring it up, but you had sort of a physical issue that was, you were on crutches, and so that was keeping you from being as active as you wanted to be, and I know that that's been really difficult for you. So yeah, you have a brand new knee. It's very cool. So yeah, you're like part superhero at this point. Let's see, Bill says that finding time is difficult. Any tips? It's difficult for me to tell you where to find time in your day, right? I will say what I just was telling my husband this morning, that if it's important to you, you'll make the time, right? And we were talking about exercise in this particular instance. But yeah, you know, we always find time for the things that we really want to do, right? And so, you know, I will say with the proliferation of, you know, little computers in our pocket, there's a lot of time spent on that. Maybe less time could be spent there, but I don't know. You know, I know that you have your own life. I'm not sure what you've got going on in it. Lots of people have lots of different jobs. Lots of people work full-time at home as well as their full-time job, you know, on campus, or so that's the big answer. But one tip I might say is that don't feel like you have to work out for an hour or it's no good. Okay? If you can grab 15 minutes in different parts of your day and go on and get your heart rate up, I would say do that. Okay? Because that 15 minutes is better than 0 minutes. All right? So maybe looking at exercise in manageable chunks of time might be a start there for you. Yeah, Stuart, sometimes it's identifying blocks, times of the day, right? So early morning and lunchtime works best for you. You know, I'm an early morning person. As far as my temperament, I'm more awake early in the morning than I am late at night. Don't ask me to really do anything in the evening, because I won't do it with the same sort of passion that I'll do it early in the morning. But yeah, I have also found that very early in the morning does work for me. Okay, but I also don't have any kids to get ready for school. So if that's something, then maybe working out in the evening is going to be something for you. So it really sort of does depend on everyone's individual schedule, preferences, that type of thing. So, but let's see, Bill, yeah, small blocks may help, says Bill. You used to do early morning, but you have to get your son to school, right? Right, and you know, and I understand that really does, it changes everything. You know, I've got a couple friends whose kids are getting ready to start driving, and they are both like, I can't wait. You know, they'll be able to take themselves to school or take themselves to soccer or whatever. So yeah, hopefully in another 14 years or so, Bill, that will be you. But other than that, yeah, maybe look for those small blocks. Right. Good. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, speaking of early in the morning, we're gonna get into this handout, and you can see here that one of the ways that exercise improves your life, that has nothing to do with weight loss, talks about sleep, right? So has anyone heard the caveat about exercising at night? As in, you shouldn't? That is something that gets repeated to us often enough where I think it's still kind of floating out there, right? Yeah, so Juanita says yes, she has heard this. And I will say, first off, it's not necessarily true. Okay, so the caveat against exercising in the evening was that it would energize you so much that you wouldn't be able to fall asleep. Now, while undoubtedly this is probably true for some people, there's no medical certainty that makes this true for all. Okay, so it may come down to sort of experimenting to see what works for your particular constitution, but by and large, exercise in the evening is not going to disturb your sleep, and in fact has been shown in studies to not only improve the quality of your sleep, but also your sleep duration. And if anyone has trouble sleeping, you know that it's a combination of these two things that add up to a good night's sleep, right? A study has found that people who exercise for 150 minutes a week, which is the sort of minimum recommendation for general health, found that this group of people slept 65% better than those who did not exercise 150 minutes per week. I was not privy to how they defined better, but that is what the study said. Interestingly, too, exercise also reduces the amount of sleep that you need in order to feel rested, which is interesting, right? So if before you were exercising you felt like you needed a solid 10 hours, otherwise you were worthless the next day, with regular physical activity, it's possible that that number could go down to maybe 9 or 8. And then you would have more time during the day to exercise, right? So, so it makes sense that exercise is also implicated in an increase of energy, since you are reducing the amount of sleep that you need to feel rested. Exercise does increase your body's efficiency as well as energy generating capacity. And in fact, in a University of Georgia study, this only took about 20 minutes 3 times a week. So people who did aerobic exercise, right? So aerobic exercise means you're getting your heart rate up, which means more blood is traveling to your extremities, which means you're working your heart out. Remember, your heart is a muscle. It can get strong just like your other muscles in your body. People who are doing aerobic exercise 3 times a week for 20 minutes, totally respectable, could do that over your lunch, were found that, they found that their body efficiency increased. Okay, so that's pretty cool, right? And you may see this, right? You may feel like if you have, if you start to flag maybe mid-morning, you do get a little bit of a boost, right? But as I said earlier, this should not be enough of a boost where it's going to cause you not to be able to sleep. People may vary, of course. Let's see, what have we got here next? Life expectancy. I think this one is kind of intuitive, right? You sort of feel like maybe if you exercise more, you might live a little bit longer. This has been borne out in several research studies, that more exercise reduces what's called all-cause mortality, which is basically your chances of dying of any cause on any given day That's what all-cause mortality is. And this has nothing to do with weight, which is quite interesting because lots of times weight is eliminated as a confounding factor in these kinds of studies. But across the spectrum, this life expectancy is increased via all-cause mortality with an increase in exercise. It also slows cell aging. And the reason for this is because exercise actually lengthens our telomeres. Has anyone heard this term before? It's T-E-L-O-M-E-R-E. Okay, Stuart says no. So this, every once in a while, there'll be some study on telomeres, and then you'll see the headlines, and then it'll sort of go away. But this is sort of a new facet of the human body that's been studied in the last few years. Telomeres are basically protective caps at the end of your chromosomes, right? So you know your chromosomes are where your DNA is housed. And the longer that these protective caps are, the longer your telomeres are, the less effects that you show of aging. Now, these are not necessarily external effects, okay? These are internal and external effects. So you might still get some wrinkles, but your insides are looking good, right? So yeah, so exercise can actually keep your telomeres from shortening as quickly. And that's what is going to slow down the aging of your cells. Pretty cool. Any questions about any of that? Sleep or energy or life expectancy? Have you all experienced improvements in any of these with your exercise patterns? Okay, no one's talking. That's cool. I will continue. All right, so where are we going next? We're going next to cognition. All right, so cognition is just understanding concepts, how your brain works. Sherry says that you always feel better after you exercise. It's the consistency that's a problem for me. Yeah, and I would say, you know, it does take some time to establish new patterns of behavior, certainly. It helps if you like what you're doing. So make sure you like it. If there's anything that you kind of dread about whatever behavior you're trying to make a part of your life, then maybe see if you can alter that behavior a little bit so you enjoy it a little more. I would also suggest putting your exercise plans in your calendar, preferably with a little alarm. I do that when I have my early morning runs. I have it in my calendar. So there's a ding. I have lots of dings. It's not just my alarm going off. It's not just my watch telling me that it's time to get up, but then I get a calendar alert. So it's really hard to ignore all of those things. You can tell your friends and family about your exercise plans. That's a little bit of a form of accountability, certainly. If there are friends who share your physical activity goals or like to do the same types of things that you do, it's a lot harder to stay in bed in the morning if you know you've got someone waiting on you, right? You don't want to you'll let yourself down, but you don't want to let your friends down. So if you can get an accountability buddy, that's also a good tactic for consistency. But, you know, giving yourself the chance to sort of build up to it too, I'd say that's probably step one. Okay, let's see. Eric says nope. So Eric, I think the nope means you haven't, no questions. All right, let's see. So cognition, as I said. Thanks, Sherry. Exercise has been found to preserve cognition and cognitive function. As we know, it tends to slightly decrease as we get older, right? And it's also found to lower your risk for dementia. So the reason why this happens is that exercise has been shown to increase the brain's levels of something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which actually promotes new brain cells. So we are helping to keep the brain cells that we have and possibly grow some new ones with physical activity. It's probably because you are making your heart beat a little bit faster, which is pushing oxygen to all of those blood vessels. It's helping create new blood vessels, and odds are some of them are going to be in your brain. So that's basically what's working. And you know, once you get that blood flowing to, and you're delivering oxygen more efficiently to all parts of your body also includes your brain. So the anterior frontal regions of your brain, which are responsible for cognition and cognitive thinking, are going to get more oxygen, right? You're kind of opening the floodgates whenever you are increasing that physical activity, and that's what's going to help preserve that function and decrease your risk of dementia. Exercise has also been shown to help with arthritis, and I know this is something that a lot of people have talked to us about in the past. Basically what you're doing when you are doing either aerobic or strength training, okay, but you're still building up some muscle, okay, and that muscle is actually going to take a lot of impact from your movement and take that impact away from your joints, right? Because as you know, arthritis just means inflammation of the joints, okay? That inflammation also causes stiffness, so you can't move as well. Obviously, it causes pain, right? And if you can take some of the job away from your joints, take some of that gravitational pull away from your joints, then it stands to reason that your symptoms of arthritis are going to improve, okay? Because you've got sort of less pressure going on with more musculature. And lastly, on this page, this is just page 1. Lastly, exercise can elevate your mood, right? And in some research, it's actually been shown to be as effective as medications for cases of mild to moderate depression. Imagine that, right? A lot of people talk about how they want to decrease the amounts of medicine that they do take. And something like exercise can actually help you do that for mild to moderate depression. We're not exactly sure how it affects your brain. Brain science is still, you know, a lot of it is unknown. But we know that natural opiates are released during exercise. We know that these opiates are associated with mood elevation as well as decreasing stress. And that's because that cortisol has been shown to be decreased with prolonged physical activity. Cortisol is known as that stress hormone, right? Exercise is also increased with body confidence as well as sort of general life confidence, right? If you think about that, you know, if you've recently started doing a new physical activity, maybe you've noticed that you look at the world just a little bit differently. You know, you're more clear about how you're getting through your day, about your role in the world, your space in it. You move with more confidence. That can be as simple as you feel like your balance is better, right? Very literal translation of that. Or you just feel like you feel good, you know? So that confidence is increased in all areas of life. That just bleeds into all types of things, not just your exercise confidence or just the fact that you feel like you can walk into a gym now. Maybe you didn't feel like that before. Maybe going shopping for clothes is a little bit easier. Or maybe you have less anxiety about food shopping, and that's helping with your confidence. So exercise can help with all of these things. It's also associated with an increased sense of work-life balance. Even though you're adding something to your busy schedule, people who exercise regularly feel more satisfied with the balance, with their personal balance between work and life. So it's pretty cool. All right, any questions about that stuff? Cognition, arthritis, mood. I'll scroll down to the second page here. Okay, no questions. All right, so we'll go to page 2. And we'll start off with heart health. We get a lot of questions about this. A lot of people hear about heart healthy diet. You also want to hear about heart healthy exercise, right? So both cardio, aerobic, and strengthening activities help with your heart. As I mentioned, your heart is a muscle, so you want to make it stronger and more efficient and better at pumping oxygen through your blood, right? But exercise is going to lower your heart rate because it doesn't have to work as hard to be as efficient. It's going to improve your lipid profile, so that's improving your cholesterol. So if you're looking how to decrease your bad cholesterol, that's your LDL, or increase your heart protective cholesterol, that's your HDL, then exercise is going to help with both of those things. As I mentioned, exercise also reduces cortisol, which can wreak a little bit of havoc on your heart. And it can also reduce chronic inflammation, right? So while there might be some acute inflammation associated with exercise, particularly if you start a new activity, exercise overall is going to reduce that type of inflammation that's been found to be implicated in certain types of long-term diseases, like cancer, for example. How long does it take before your heart rate begins to lower? Well, interestingly enough, I learned this today, that about 3 times a week of either cardio or strength training can improve your blood pressure by 20%, okay, that day. And those effects can last up to 24 hours. Okay. Now, again, depending on your level of maybe blood pressure issues, if that's what you're talking about, or if you're talking about your resting heart rate, individual results are going to vary. This is just one study that did find that. But I will say that repeated strength training and aerobic exercise does result in that decrease in heart rate. Okay. And putting an actual timestamp on it might be problematic because you might be creating more stress if you're not seeing the results that you want right now. But I can say with confidence that it does happen. Okay. So yeah, so great. If your resting hovers around 80, I want to say that's still within the normal range, right? The resting heart rate normal range is between 60 and 100. So people are all over that spectrum. Okay, it's when it starts to get above 100 that you do want to seriously look at decreasing it. But yeah, if you just sort of are tweaking what is already good, then exercise is going to help with that as well. So cool. All right. Let's see. Yeah, so I just sort of talked about blood pressure too. As I mentioned, cardio or strength training is going to improve that blood pressure. So it's because your heart is working more efficiently. It's because it's more efficient at delivering oxygen through that system. Doesn't have to beat as fast. It's pretty cool. Diabetes, exercise is also going to help with that, in that it helps improve your insulin efficiency, right, as well as insulin sensitivity. So what you're doing there, if you're increasing that insulin sensitivity and efficiency, basically what it comes down to is there's less sugar in your blood. Okay, so if you're improving the way that you use your insulin, it means that when your body is releasing insulin, it's because there's sugar that needs to get somewhere else, right? And so if you're using your insulin more efficiently in your body, then instead of that sugar hanging out in your blood where it can cause all kinds of issues, right? It can collect in little capillaries, and that's what can cause eye issues or foot troubles when you have diabetes. It'll get out of those capillaries and get into your cells instead. The reason why we want sugar to be in our cells instead of our blood is because that's how our cells get energy, right? So if you're feeling tired all the time as a result of diabetes, that's why. It's because the sugar is not getting into your cells the way that it should. And sugar I'm using as a catch-all phrase really for energy. Okay, when we eat food, our body breaks it down. Most often it breaks down into glucose, and that's what the body is going to use for energy for those cells. If it can't get it into those cells, if that insulin key is unable to unlock those cells, then that's what can cause our blood sugar readings to go up. Okay, so exercise can help with that, particularly if you are one of those folks who I asked in the beginning of class. If you are looking to start an exercise program, but you're not there yet, okay, One study looked at people who were sedentary, so not doing any regular exercise, and looked at people who went from being sedentary to regular exercise, about an hour a day. All right. They actually increased their insulin resistance by 25%. That is not insignificant. Okay. So, and that increases over time. All right. So if you are someone with diabetes, you're not exercising regularly, then you can help with your insulin resistance by incorporating some physical activity. Not to mention, not always, but often, diabetes is associated with weight. And if you can decrease your weight, you may decrease the your symptoms of with your type 2 diabetes, if that's what it is. If it's type 2. Type 1, different story. All right. Any questions about heart, blood pressure, or diabetes when it comes to... Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, Tiffany, I think is your first name. Yeah, it's that is how the damage is done. It's kind of weird, right? But yeah, physically the sugar, if you think of it, it's like too big for the tiny, tiny, tiny capillaries that are back there in your eyes and at the tips of your fingers and toes. And so that's where that diabetic neuropathy can come in. Yeah, cool. I'm glad. We like learning, dropping the knowledge. Okay, thanks, Nina. Got 3 more here. 3 more. Let's see. Oh, one thing I should say too with diabetes that's related to heart health and exercise too is that exercise actually helps create tiny new little blood vessels, like helps create them. So if you have blood vessels that are already compromised by some sugar hanging out where it shouldn't be, that's another way that exercise is going to help too, because it's creating new tiny little blood vessels. And it's also expanding already existing arteries, so that blood flow is just going to be increased and not pooling where it shouldn't be. So good stuff there too. Okay, so exercise, as we know, can also help with falls and possible fractures as that result from these falls. So there's 3 types of exercise, right? We've talked about aerobic, we've talked about strength and conditioning, but there's also exercise that promotes balance and stability, okay? These can often just be body weight exercises or walking. That's gonna help balance and stability because you're improving your gait. So it also helps improve your reaction time so that if you do fall, your body is going to react faster, okay? Because again, those muscles are going to be more accessible to you, okay? Even a home-based strengthening program that just uses your body weight can be helpful for improving strength, gait, balance, and reaction time. It doesn't have to be some fancy gym program, okay? So as we get older, we know that falling tends to happen a little bit more frequently. Whether the fracture happens before the fall or after the fall, we want to avoid it, right? And so increasing your physical activity can also help with this. Let's see, 2 more I've got here. Your prostate. For men, exercise also lowers risk of BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is just the term for enlarged prostate. And this is something actually where walking specifically has been found to help decrease the incidence of enlarged prostate. 2 to 3 hours a week of walking has been associated with a 25% lower risk of enlarged prostate. So that is a very common affliction that a lot of men find themselves with. And so increasing your walking during the week might help with a reduction in harm here as well. And then lastly, I've got bone health. I feel like this one is fairly intuitive as well, but exercise can help prevent bone loss, okay? You know that we're kind of like, once we hit 30, we're losing bone. Yeah, which is kind of depressing. But you can help maintain the bone density that you have, prevent further bone loss, and it's been found that in women, even those who are postmenopausal and have osteoporosis, it's been found to, guess what? Been found to build more bone, just a little bit, okay? But certainly can help with losing any more, all right? Yeah, sorry, Tiffany. I know. It's rough out there. But yes, so if you are hitting 30 or if you're past 30, and if you are looking for ways to maintain your bone density, again, preventing future fractures and or falls, keeping nice straight posture, right? Having that energy to be able to move in the way that you want to move as you age, then exercise is going to help with all of these things. Pretty cool. And walking was mentioned lots of times as the exercise that was studied in the particular research that's associated with these health conditions. And honestly, if you're not doing anything right now, walking is a great place to start. Okay, intentional walking, taking a little time out of your day to get up from your desk, walk around the building, okay, walk outside the building if you can, after dinner, go for a walk. Any of those things. Before you go to work, go for a walk. It's a great place to start. But if you're looking for something that's even more intentional, that's even more sort of focused and maybe more skill building as far as physical activity is concerned, remember that y'all are eligible to be MoveWell members, okay? So MoveWell is the employee dedicated fitness programming that we offer as part of UK Health and Wellness. We have the facilities that you can join for a very small amount of money per month, and the usage of those facilities also comes with group fitness classes. We have all kinds that are on the schedule. You can always check those out on the UK Health and Wellness website. If you're not ready to commit to a MoveWell membership just yet, you can still do an exercise consult. Those are free. You don't have to be a MoveWell member, and you would schedule those using your UK Health and Wellness dashboard. Or, work out at home, or go to a different gym, or just do something that you like, but try to increase the intentional movement that you get each day. All right? Any questions about any of this? All right. I hope that I've given you guys some ideas to chew on. Remember that we've got 2 gyms that are employee dedicated here on campus. So if working out during the workday is what's going to work for you, know that you do have options there. Okay. Other than that, doesn't look like we have any questions. So I'm going to sign off. You're welcome, Tiffany. Thank you. If you're a new member and you joined after I started the lesson today, do know that everything is recorded, so you can always catch up as you need to. Please know that Karen and I are always available for a quick email if you have any questions. You can always schedule a meeting for us if you feel like you just need a little bit more information about how this program works. Okay, we're available to answer those questions for you. Okay, but if you are new, welcome. We're happy to have you, and of course, happy to have our returners as well. You'll get Karen next week, and we'll be talking about back to basics when it comes to eating well. All right. Thanks, Nina. You have a great weekend too. I hope the weather breaks. I am tired of this weather. I'll tell you what, especially after coming back from 50s and 60s, sweater weather is where I was. So I hope you all have a great rest of the week and weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye.